Hello, this is an interview from the Autism Virtually about Amy's park for her son and how she took and made it. We are here with me, Jillian.
Hi, I'm Corey.
Hi, I'm Jen.
Hi, I'm Amy.
Corey, would you like to start off with anything you want to say?
Sure. So Amy, the playground is called Dustin's Adventureland. And how did what's your inspiration? Where did the idea come from?
So it all started about 5 years ago when I came up with an idea to have a special needs egg hunt because Dustin, I took him to an event, and because of the loud noises, there was too much sensory going on. He actually ended up having a meltdown and he didn't have a very good time. So I decided it was time to have something for all children that's inclusive. So I put a post out on Facebook and to ask the community for some help. And Jeffrey Dunkel, he had messaged me. We had the event, and while we were raising funds, we actually had money left over, and we were only supposed to do like a bench or a wheelchair swing, something small for the Pottsville's playground. And it ended up that he had met with another person, Jimmy Womer, and mentioned it to him. And they came up with a bigger idea of just actually putting in an all-inclusive playground, because that is actually what Jim Womer does. He installs all-inclusive equipment for playgrounds. So that's how it evolved.
That's so amazing. Um, I wondered, how did you come upon that place of land to put it there? Was there already some kind of equipment there and you added to it? How did that come about?
The land was actually donated to us. So they had to end up meeting with the two municipalities. It would be Minersville and Branch Township, to get the okay to put it in.
I'm going to throw it to Jillian. Do you have a question ready?
Yeah. So I wanted to know, did you have any specific ideas for what type of playground equipment you wanted to have at the start, or was that in later planning?
So they picked out a company, and the guy said, we want you to pick out the equipment because you're more familiar with the disability and what these kids need. So I wanted to incorporate a lot of sensory needs and to promote fine motor skills, speech, and to help with interactive play with the others. So I wanted to make sure that we had some of those items or equipment that would help to calm them down, obviously, if there was too much stimulation. And we wanted to make sure um, as well, not only just for the children with autism, but we wanted to make sure that we had the equipment that we needed for children who were immobile and in wheelchairs. So we wanted to try to incorporate all the disabilities out there.
So this question is a little more personal, since I have a nephew who's also autistic, and I kind of wanted to know what sensory in particular that you have, like what sensory, I don't want to say games, but like inclusion is the word I'm looking for. What sensory inclusions do you have in the park? You're muted.
So some of the things that we picked out were the Rainmaker. It's soothing. So that was one of them, which is actually my favorite. The inclusive spinner, it's kind of like a merry-go-round. It has seats on it, so kids who are immobile in wheelchairs, they can go onto it. We have the zip line. We have the connection swing seat. That's where two people can actually sit on it together. So the mother can hold their child while they're swinging together. I have the Kid Force spinner to help with the vestibular sense, which is your balance. Sorry, the dog is attacking my shoes as I'm talking to you. And we also have, it's not really the xylophone, but they're like chimes. So those were some of the things, and there's more equipment, but those were just some of the things that we had picked out.
This is Corey again. You kind of answered in a sense, but did you have a specific age in mind? Or is it open for adults to use all of the equipment, or are there weight regulations?
No, there's no age. I didn't think of any age in mind, because you might be an adult but have the mindset of a child. So we wanted to make sure that we included that. So there's no really, mind you, there are some pieces of equipment that are more for like that little kids can fit into, but most of the equipment the adults can use as well. I even go on the equipment as well.
Yeah, I got to go on your sensory, what is it, like the zip line, which was awesome when I was showing a client, trying to get him to be more confident to try it. And it is fun. It's really great. And it's strong. The wire you have, I think, could hold like 5 of me. So that's awesome that you thought to include bigger people.
Thank you.
About how long, Amy, my question is from like actively starting. So you have an idea, right? But then you take the first step that you're actively working on this. From that first step to opening day, how long did it take you and your teammates to make this reality?
It took about 5 years total.
Step by step, can you walk us through, like, if there's any parents who have seen the inclusive playground that you built with community support only, and they want something like that in their community, and they feel that they could put the time into this dream and make something like that happen in their community? A, what advice would you give to those people? And B, is there like a how-to, like what separate steps did you have to take in order to make it happen?
I mean, basically, it's whatever thoughts or ideas that you imagine. You just have to step it up. You have to reach out to the community like I did, especially with the A-kinds. And those things lead into bigger and better things that ended up evolving from it. You got to start coming up with a plan to build your dreams, and you have to make it happen. You can't just sit and talk about things, or it's never going to happen. Honestly, it would be the best adventure and accomplishment in your life. And it's such a rewarding feeling knowing what you're doing for others. And our community always is supportive in what you do. So that's really the only advice that I can give, is you have to start. You can't just sit there and talk about things that you want to do. You have to start somewhere.
Okay, so you start. What was the first big thing that you had to accomplish? Okay, so you're going to build this park. You have a person who builds inclusive playground, who's a great asset to this dream. What was the first big thing you had to accomplish? Like, if you could break it into smaller parts.
Getting the land was the biggest accomplishment. That was the huge step into starting the playground, because if you don't have the land, you can't put down the playground.
Okay, number 1, make sure you can get the land. Step 2.
You have to start raising funds. In other words, if you don't start raising the funds, you're not going to have any money to get your playground equipment.
What were some of the ways that you raised the funds? I read that you raised $500,000 to make this happen. Is that true?
Yes. It was of fundraising by holding events, selling tickets for chances, 50-50s, writing letters, which Jeff and Tanya were fantastic at doing, to get grants. So, I mean, you're giving your life up. It's literally every day and every weekend, there's something planned, there's something that you're doing.
It takes a lot of dedication. So 1, get the land. 2, raise the money. Big step 3, build it?
Then you start building. Yes.
How long did the building process take?
We actually, I would say it took us about 6 months. It was around that time. But it also helped that it definitely would have taken us a lot longer, but because Jim Womer does this as part of his life, he was a huge help, because he knew what had to be done. And we were just like his little leaders and followers. Like, we did whatever we had to do. So that was a huge step of having him on our side.
Awesome. Corey, I'm gonna throw this back to you.
Yeah, how do you fund the upkeep? You have some events. I was peeking at your Facebook page, the Dustin's Adventureland Facebook page, and I saw that you have an adult prom coming up. You want to tell us more about that? Is that part of the funding, or is that
Yeah,
related?
actually, one of the huge helps was Lowe's. They were involved in helping us as well build it. So they gather people together in their building, and they came out and helped us. And they also donated like a shed for us, lawn mowers, like stuff that we would need to maintain the land. And then on top of it, we have the Christmas prom coming up in December, and that money is raised not only to keep maintaining the land around it, but also we're going to move on to other things to keep adding on to the playground, like a splash park. So we're going to keep building.
Awesome. Jillian, did you have another question?
I love splash parks.
Uh,
But I do really want to know what the ground is made out of, because it's one solid thing, which makes sense and it's wheelchair accessible. But it also looked bouncy, so I figured it'd be rubber with something else in it.
It's rubber surfacing. It's throughout the playground. It's very airy when you walk on it. It's nice and soft. So it's 3 inches thick. And for areas that are more fall zone areas, which is about 6 feet around the area, it's 5 inches thick more for a softer landing. So, I mean, I'm sure it's amazing to walk on. It's so soft. And like I said, you feel like you're walking on air.
Is there any downsides to having that type of flooring instead of the typical wood chips or rubber chunks?
Well, the wood chips we didn't use because obviously more difficulty with wheelchairs, walkers, anything going over that. So we wanted something softer for them to get pushed on so they didn't have any difficulty.
I know that. That's more or less, I was wondering, obviously that's the reason why you picked it. Is there any downsides? Like, is it more expensive? Because why is this not a typical thing in parks?
Oh, it's very, very expensive. I honestly don't even remember the price alone just for the rubber matting. But that was actually one of the biggest funds that we had to raise separate, was just for the rubber matting.
okay, I have a question about the rubber matting too. Will it have to be replaced? How long will it last?
No, there's actually a warranty on it. It's gonna last. There should be no tearing or anything. Yeah.
That's worth the price.
Yeah. It better be for the amount that it was.
Yeah. How about you, Jen? Did you have any more questions?
I have a couple more questions. One of the questions is, you're a special needs mom, and so am I. And there are times where we get overwhelmed with what we're doing, just regular stuff, much less, raising $500,000 and creating a park. Were there ever any times, Amy, during the process that you felt overwhelmed, that you wanted to step away? And if there was any times like that, what gave you this, like, the strength of character and just a gumption to keep going?
Honestly, if I said it if I said it wasn't overwhelming, I'd be lying to you. And it wasn't just me. I mean, it was harder for me because I'm also taking care of a special needs child as well. Two, I mean, one ADHD, autism, another one with ADHD, and also possibly has autism as well. But we went into it knowing that it wasn't going to be easy. Because like I said, it's nonstop. Not only were we building, but with the events, we are also having board meetings once a month and emergency meetings. But you just got to keep telling yourself why you started doing it, and that you can't give up. And for Dustin to keep talking about it just really kept me more motivated to do it. There's times where I said I didn't want to do it anymore, and they did. They talked me out of it, which I'm glad they did. And it's a long journey. It really was. But the day that we had the opening, that's what we worked for. Just to see the expression on the children's faces and the smiles just made everything all worth it.
That's awesome. I have a lot of respect for you and for everyone who created this. I live in the same community as you, and I've already been able to take some clients there. I have other families I'm encouraging to go there because there isn't a lot for our kids. Our kids really kind of fall in the background, you know? And the last question I had for you is, going through this process, what have you learned about yourself and what have you learned about other people?
Honestly, I mean, I was a pretty headstrong person, but I think it made me even stronger of a person, inside and out. I think we hit a lot of walls on the way, but we broke through them and we accomplished so much for the community. I learned how appreciated that we are by the community, and how much it was needed. I mean, we knew it was needed, but when you have families telling you how much they really wanted this, it means a lot more. Um, and for the community, to back us up 100% along the way, and to see what everyone's really capable of, when the community comes together, it's an amazing thing to see. But really, it just keeps you more motivated to keep going and going.
It's such a wonderful place to have in your in the community you live in. I have one more question that I'm going to ask before we close out. What was Dustin's reaction the first time he got to experience his Adventureland?
He calls it Dustin's playground, and then he says Dustin's a superhero. And I always tell him, "Yes, you are, buddy." I said, "You're mommy's superhero." He was very excited, and to show when he actually saw the building process of it, and when I took his picture standing outside of it, and when he actually saw how far along it came, to him it was pictures and it was just talk. But for him to actually see it, it was so awesome. It was really cool to see his face.
Thank you so much, Amy, for sharing Dustin's Adventureland with us and answering all of our really nosy questions. And I can't wait to visit sometime and experience it myself. And thank you again, Amy. And thank you, Jillian and Jen. And I'm Corey. When we're signing off.